Hello there, welcome to another episode of Kinstretch with the Fitness Alchemists. We're going to dig into some wrist work today in a position that doesn't get a lot of love, but can feel so good for your forearm tightness, especially from typing, as well as working on some hip control, getting into the more creative parts of Kinstretch, which is one of our favorite aspects. It's really a practice that can fit you, your needs, your desires, and your creativity. And today we want to show you how a little bit. So let's go ahead and warm up with some hip cars and some wrist cars. You're not going to need props really today, but if you want to throw a pillow under your head here, if that's more comfortable for you, Hannah's just going to use her arm. Find a nice braced position in your body. Take a moment to feel that brace, commit to keeping that brace, and then begin your hip car. Let's go knee up to your chest here to start, making sure your spine isn't rounding or changing shape to accommodate your moving leg, and just drawing the largest circle you can while only moving your thigh bone. Okay? It's amazing to me how even when you do reps often, we'll just keep going in this direction, there's still more to learn, more to feel, especially as your range of motion changes over time. So keep tuning in as if it's the first hip car that you've ever done. Good. Keep going for time in this direction. Feeling free to pause at any positions that feel a little sore today. Maybe positions that feel new, that you're able to access for the first time. And 3, 2, 1. Pause wherever you're at. Double check that you're still on tension, and let's go the other direction with that hip motion. Driving your heel behind you, starting to reach your shin up to the ceiling, and then gradually letting that leg come forward as you pull the knee up to your armpit and up to your belly button. Scrape along your bottom leg as you pass through for another rep. We'll keep working here, 30 more seconds. And as much as you can, try to treat this as an isometric core exercise first and a hip control exercise second. That way you're sure that you're not moving the parts of your body that you're trying to keep still. That's your priority. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and come onto your other side and use your hand on that top arm to monitor where your abs are, where your back is, where your pelvis is, or pin it to the floor. Whatever helps you with maintaining your best hip car position. And let's go ahead and start driving your top knee to your chest, finding hip flexion, ankle to the ceiling. Start rotating your thigh to reach your heel behind, and sweep all the way back into end range extension. Sweep that top leg across the bottom leg to really find some contraction of your inner thigh as you pass through for another rep. Trying to feel how far apart you can pry your knees as you float that leg behind you. Stretch the front of your hip actively and sweep your knee down towards the floor as much as possible. Keep going. Really taking some time to warm up all the tissue around the hip, but especially all the tissues that keep your spine still. When we work today on end range hip control, the spine and pelvis are really going to want to play along. So now is a great time to set that system up. Brace, pause, and go ahead and make your way the other direction. Feeling how this direction might be a little different. Each and every motion we make, our brain is going to accomplish slightly differently. So go slow so that you can pick up on any new sensations that might be available to you. And spend effort equally on the non-moving side of the joint, your pelvis and spine, even as you're also trying to move that thigh bone in a larger circle. Finishing up your final rep in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Now go ahead, come up to a comfortable seated position so we can warm up the wrist just a bit. Go ahead and brace your forearm, either arm, doesn't matter which we start with, and pin that elbow into your rib cage, or at least tight against your body. Really feel some active effort through both arms. So this is a high tension position. Flatten out your palm and reach your fingertips down to the floor. So we are going to work on wrist mobility today, starting with this wrist car. Very often the palm and fingers want to get involved. So yeah, exactly, they want to fold up. So as we go through these preliminary cars, just try to focus on keeping your palm as flat as possible. Start to reach your fingertips out to the side, noticing that your wrist is going to try to turn, but we're trying to only move the hand so that the wrist joint is maximized and we're not actually moving the forearm at all. Okay? Keep making your way through this circle. It's a very stiff little joint, so it's going to take a lot of effort for a very little bit of movement. And when you get your fingertips to the floor again, pause, maximize the stretch you're feeling at the base of your wrist, and then start going the other way, feeling how that stretch moves around your wrist in a circle. So you're really checking in on all of the end range positions available to you. Now your wrist car might look significantly different than Hannah. It might have much more motion in each position or much less, but the goal for all of us is the same. No movement at the forearm, controlled movement at the end range of your wrist motion. Okay, and relax. Let's do the other side. Hold on to that forearm. You don't always need that other arm for a brace, so if you want to just do wrist cars throughout the day, you just want to try to consciously keep your forearm still, fingertips towards the floor, palm is opened up flat, and then begin reaching your fingertips one way or the other. And notice that rotational movement of your hand at the wrist joint. Good. Even as you pick up on the fact that we have much more motion in extension and flexion than we do in lateral and medial motion, you still have some, and the sum total of all of those positions is going to be a circle. Pause with your fingertips to the floor and go the other direction. And as you finish up this last rep, I'll just call out some positions that will be useful for you. So with fingertips to the floor, that's end range wrist extension. And what we're going to work on specifically today is end range wrist flexion, which is here with the fingertips pointed up to the ceiling. All right, so just file that position away, and we will work on it extensively here in a moment. All right, and relax. So I'm going to have you come into a butterfly position first. And this is going to be how we start working on our isometric movement path. Now, IsoMPs are a great training tool in the Kinstretch universe, but they're actually, they can offer almost too much signal or too much stimulus if you aren't sure exactly what's going on. So our goal here today is to go round by round and build on to that isometric movement path until at the very end you're actually experiencing the full movement path. But throughout, our goal is going to be to move only one joint at a time with control while the rest of the body is still. And the difference with IsoMPs is that we're going to use multiple joints. So you're going to use a little hip and a little knee today, and we're really going to try to groove some of the positions involved and open the whole idea of isometric movement paths to you. So from this butterfly position, you want to get your start by getting your spine as tall as possible. So just lengthen your spine. If you want to lean back a bit, that's fine. But do try to set your hands on the floor to your sides or behind you so that you feel nice and braced. You can see Hannah's arms are straight, and that'll really help with that upper body brace. And then from here, take a moment and really contract your abs, contract your arms, and feel a solid statuesque sensation of contraction through your upper body. Then use that to start to think rotation in your right leg, external rotation, so that your ankle gets lighter and lighter until eventually it will surprise you and come off the floor. Holding it there, think of ankle higher than knee, and then smoothly control the set down, and then relax the leg. Okay, now try the left side. Brace, float the ankle, surprise yourself as it comes off the ground at its own pace, and then keep working until you've set the ankle down completely. Okay, so to start, we're just going to do this for a few more reps on each side for time, so move at your own time and begin on the first side again. Brace, lift, hold at a complete stop, and smoothly set down. Each time on each leg, trying to maximize the external rotation of that working thigh. Great stuff. Good. You'll notice that Hannah's knee comes up before the ankle comes off the floor. That's totally normal, but the whole time I'm encouraging you to think of what it would take to get that ankle higher than your knee. Just keep that thought running, even if the reality is not that. That's how we're going to get progressively closer and closer to more hip external rotation. One more rep on each side. And brace your body. Make sure you haven't lost that strong sensation in your spine. Lift, hold, and lower. Okay, now from here, go ahead and stretch your feet out wide into a straddle shape. And this is the other end of our isometric movement path. You'll see what I mean in a bit, but we're going to be moving from butterfly to straddle. So we just want to get comfy in those positions. Go ahead, scooch this way a tad. So take a moment to just walk your feet out as wide as you can. Find a stretch sensation in your inner thighs. Okay? And for this first round, I just want to kind of prepare the tissue in this position. So if you can, try to lean forward and place your hands on the ground in front of you on the insides of your thighs. So right up against the insides of your thighs. Okay? Almost try to sweep your hands outward into your inner thighs. Yeah, you can see Hannah places her hands under the knee joint. That's a great option. But if this angle of lean is not available, just do the best you can. You could even set your hands outside of your thighs if that's what works for you. And from here, imagine that you've super glued both heels to the floor and begin trying to bend your knees, but your heels are too heavily pressed into the ground. So nothing's going to move, but we're just going to turn on a PAILs contraction for the hamstring and inner thigh tissue. Now keep that knee bend effort going and begin trying to also sweep your knees inward or your ankles inward against your forearms. So we're now also PAILs contracting the inner thigh tissue. Ramp up the intensity of this effort to your greatest safe level in the next 10 seconds. Wherever you find that intensity, keep holding it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Okay? If it feels possible to do so, go ahead and walk your feet out just a little bit wider, and then walk your hands out wider as well. And then really lean into your hands. Lean into your hands so heavily that if you leaned any more, you might lift your butt off the ground. Okay? At that degree of lean, you should feel quite a bit of active brace going on through your torso, like a plank type brace. And then you're going to utilize that brace to begin thinking of ankles getting light on the floor. They will not lift, but make them feel light. And then try to sweep the feet further apart from each other. If possible, look for contraction in both butts, both sides of your hips, and really hold on to this end range contraction here, your rails contraction for your straddle position. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Make sure you come all the way back to a passive, relaxed stretch feeling before peeling yourself out and coming into a comfortable seated, quadruped setup for your wrists. Okay, so go ahead and come on to hands and knees to start. and real short with your quadruped, so your hands are pretty close to your knees. And then from here, flip your palms over so that your palms are facing up towards your chest or towards your armpit. And you can see Hannah's starting with an elbow bend. That totally makes sense here because we're going to start by just hunting for the stretch that limits your wrist flexion. Okay? So as you're hunting for this, as always with our stretching work, if you're feeling pain on the shortening side, the closing angle of the joint, that would be something to avoid and work not quite to that level. So if Hannah felt it in this wrist, she would just want to lean forward a bit more until, oh, no more closing angle pain, and that's where she would work today. But if you don't feel that pain, I want you to really hunt for the best stretch you can in your forearms. Start by straightening your elbows, and then begin rotating your elbow joint back and forth, scanning for where the juiciest line of tension that you can find is. Once you locate that line of tension, gently lean back to load a little bit more tension into that line, and take a few deep breaths, asking your body to relax into this position. And then from this angle of stretch, we're going to start some isometric training. So begin pinning your fingertips down to the floor, all 5 fingertips, including the thumbs, and connect that effort with the sensation of contraction happening up your forearms. Once you've connected those dots mentally, begin to send more effort into that contraction effort, more energy, and build that pressure of your fingertips down into the ground up to about 30% contraction. Holding on to this 30%, you can also play with feeling like you're trying to straighten your wrist through the floor, but obviously you can't because the ground's in the way. Hold it 3, 2, 1, and relax. Okay, now from this angle, keep holding the stretch, and now think about pulling your palms towards your elbows. When you send that signal, try to connect that with the sensation of contraction on the other side of the forearm, so in the bottom side of that forearm, and ramp up the intensity of that effort all the way to your greatest safe effort. This side's a little safer to contract, so we can turn it up a little quicker. Once you get there, think of almost lifting your fingertips away from the ground, and hold this rails contraction. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Very nice. Okay, once you're back to passive stretch, peel your hands off the floor and shake them out a little bit. And let's get into a butterfly position again. Okay. So again, in this butterfly setup, you want to start by looking for a straight spine. So what angle of lean of your torso is required to help you with that straight spine? Hannah, show for a second just what the collapsed spine might look like. Okay, it's not a terrible thing if you find that you have to round your spine a little bit, but it's just a bit harder to feel if this moves at all if it's rounded. So the main thing is to set up in a position that gives you the maximum feedback if your spine starts to move. Okay, and then brace here, and we're going to add on to the lifts that we were doing on the first round. So from this braced body position, same as before, make your ankle feel light on the right side. Feel that thigh rotate to allow the ankle to come up. And then keep thinking thigh rotation as you begin straightening the leg as straight as you can without the thigh moving in front of you at all. Once you hit end range extension, begin bending the knee, but try to bend that knee as tight to your hips as possible so that your heel really comes closer than where you started before setting it down. Brace again, float that left ankle. Keep that rotational effort going as you begin straightening your leg, really sending the ankle away from you without letting the thigh bone move. And then bend the knee and work to bend that knee more than when you started, setting it down even closer to your groin. Brace again, Float that right ankle. Keep thinking external rotation as you straighten the leg, almost as if you're trying to reach the heel further away from your midline than you did the first rep. Bend the knee with control, pulling the heel even closer, and then setting it down. So there's never a moment of giving up and collapsing the leg down, but rather you're staying braced and in control the whole time. Left side floats. Keep that thigh rotation as you straighten the leg. Continue keeping the thigh rotation as you bend the leg, even try to increase the rotation and pull that heel even closer. Each rep, trying to get it a little closer. Final rep on each side. Lift. Keep rotating as you straighten the knee. Try to add rotation as you bend the knee and try to pull that heel ever closer to your hips. Set it down, brace, lift, start to straighten your knee while maintaining that rotational effort through your left thigh. Then pull that heel all the way back, trying to bend your knee joint a little bit more than when you started. Set it down. All right. Again, we're going to move out to straddle and work a little from there. Okay. And just like before, find your passive end range here. So walk your feet out nice and wide. Little bend in the knee is great, just to make sure we're putting most of the work in the bigger muscles of the hip and not focusing it at the back of the knee. And then from here, we're going to work on one leg at a time, lifting and rotating from here. So you can keep your hands on either sides of your hips if you'd like. If possible, though, I'd love to have you place both hands on either side of the working leg. So you can see Hannah's just sort of turned to face that right leg and still using straight arms to maintain a stable braced torso. And what we're going to do here is, in a moment, you will lift the straight leg, rotate the thigh one way, rotate it all the way the other way, and then set it down. And we're going to do 3 reps like that. The whole time the leg's in the air, this is a near maximum effort hold for the rest of the body. So prepare accordingly. Brace your body, leaning your hands heavy into the floor, and then use that heavy brace to begin making your right ankle light. Calf comes off the floor, and then rotate your thigh. Trying to show your inseam to the ceiling, and then try to show your inseam to the floor before setting down. Okay, 2 more. Brace. Float the leg, trying to close that hip angle as tight as possible as you rotate your thigh, rotate the other way, and then set it down. Okay? Any cramping that's happening from the knee all the way up to the hip crease is fair game. So lean into that, brace, float, keep the highest leg position that you can as you rotate externally and internally, and set it down. Okay, try the other side. Take a moment, take a deep breath, and pack that air into your braced midsection, preparing your body. And then go ahead and start floating that left ankle and calf as high as possible off the ground. Rotate into end range external rotation, end range internal rotation, and then set it down. Brace again. Float the leg up. Externally rotate. Internally rotate, set down with control. Remember, your rep is not done until the leg is smoothly set down. Brace, lift, here we go, Hannah. Externally rotate, internally rotate. Keep working until that foot is all the way on the floor, then relax. Very nice. Okay, let's give the hips a moment to break, and let's go into, again, wrist flexion on the floor. So this time we're just going to build on to the regressive training. That is the training for the tissue that gets short and crampy feeling on the inside or bottom side of your forearm. All right? But we're going to again start by hunting for this stretch. So straighten the elbows, rotate the elbows until you've found a clear sensation of stretch, and then lean gently back into that stretch. Now, unlike pain on the closing angle side, there might be some discomfort on that opening angle, and you really just want to lean back as much as feels safe for that stretch today. okay? From here, begin pinning your fingernails into the floor, including your thumbs, and then also think about pushing your knuckles down into the floor, fingertips and knuckles. Connect that to the sensation of contraction in the long tissue, and ramp that effort up to 50% this round. Now, when I get to 0 on my count, you're going to switch all of that effort to trying to pull the palm up towards your elbows instead of down into the floor. 4, 3, 2, 1, and rails contract. Try to reach the knuckles away from the floor, then reaching the fingertips away from the floor, and cramping whatever tissue you can find control of in your forearm. Hold on to that contraction and gently begin leaning forward to reach your knuckles away from the ground. Holding that angle that you found. 3, 2, keep your lean and set your fingertips down. Lean back to take up a passive stretch again. Just going to do that 2 more times. Begin that rails contraction again, thinking knuckles away from the floor, fingertips away from the floor, and then lean forward, bringing the knuckles with you and trying to shorten that angle at the base of your wrist. 3, 2, 1. Let your fingertips drop and relax. Last rep, really trying to find a stretch here. And then keep that stretch going by now contracting that rails tissue, trying to shorten the base of your wrist, pulling the knuckles towards the elbows. Final lean forward, bringing the knuckles with you, trying to tire out the muscles that would pull your palm to your elbow. 3, 2, 1, relax. Nice. Okay. Give the wrists a break now and move back to the hips. We're just going to wring you out. Go ahead, come into butterfly again. So now is where we're going to actually piece together that isometric movement path. So remember, the idea with an isometric movement path, that seems like kind of a contradiction, but the isometric part of your body, the non-moving part of your body, is a huge piece of this, as is the controlled movement of whatever joint you're trying to move. And then it's a pathway because we're going to link together the hip with the knee and find that straddle position from butterfly. All right, so brace your body here. Lean your hands heavily into the floor where we started with that little bit of lean back. And then just like we've been working, start to make your right ankle light on the floor until it surprises you by lifting up off the ground. Now try to hold on to that external rotation of your thigh as you begin straightening your leg. Keeping that leg as straight as possible, try to set your foot down as wide out to the side as you can. Now once it's down on the floor, rotate your thigh so that you can push straight down with your heel with some good strength. And then from here, brace your body, lift your left ankle, keep that rotational feeling on the thigh as you straighten your leg. And again, set your heel down as wide as you can. So each rep that we get into straddle, we're going to try to reach the heels wider and wider. Even if they don't get wider, we're going to still try to think about making them wider. Make sure that left heel is pinned down to the floor. Float the right leg as high as you can off the ground. Then externally rotate and keep externally rotating as you bend your knee, pulling your heel as close to your groin as you can. Then control the set down and pin it to the floor. Left leg floats, rotates, and begins to bend, heel to groin, working for more knee flexion before you set the ankle down. Brace, float the right ankle, thinking ankle higher than knee as you straighten the leg, reach the heel out ever wider, setting down with control, and then pin that heel straight down before you lift the left ankle. Trying to lift the ankle higher than the knee, straighten the leg. Nothing is moving fast, herky or jerky. Everything's controlled and the upper body's braced. Pin that left heel, start to float your right ankle. From end range lift, externally rotate and begin bending the knee, trying to add rotation to that thigh joint as you bend your knee. Set that heel down, pin the heel to the floor, lift the left ankle, rotate, bend, and pull it in nice and tight. Okay, brace. One more rep in each direction. Keep that upper body strong. Float your ankle. Trying for your most amount of external rotation yet today. Setting that heel as wide as you can. Pin that heel down. Float the left ankle off the floor. Straighten the leg even as you keep the thigh bone wide and rotated. Set it down with control. Pin that heel, and now we just have to come home. Brace, lift your right leg, externally rotate, bend that knee, and I challenge you to bend your knee even more than you did the last rep. Keep bending it until it comes to a complete stop, then set it down with control. Float the left side, rotate, start bending. And as you watch at home, try to move even slower than my cues so you're sure you're in control. Smoothly set that foot down and relax. Whew. Okay, hips burned. Let's go back to the wrists for one more round before we check in on some more wrist cars. So this time you want to set up in a position that allows you to not just lean forward, but actually to lift off from your end range flexion. So start on that shortened up hands and knees position and just take a second and see, can you float your hands off the floor here? Yeah, good. Make sure your lower body is kind of ready for that effort. If that doesn't feel good on knees or hips or whatever, you can still keep going with the lean forward that we did last round. So let's prep again with a PAILs. So stretch your fingers out wide. Rotate the elbows to find your juiciest line of tension. Might be different this round. And then from that stretch, lean back just a tad to load it and begin pinning your fingertips to the floor for a PAILs contraction. Feel knuckles pushing into the floor as well. And remember, we're trying to teach this long tissue to be strong in this position. Ramp it up to 50% or more. Finding a strong but safe feeling contraction. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and direct your effort now to a rails contraction. Trying to bite down on the base of your wrist for more contraction in your forearm. Keep that going and begin floating your hand up off the floor. Hold end range flexion. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Set your body back down. We're just going to do that 2 more times. Now you might notice Hannah's palm is curling just a little bit. Totally fine because she is working at her maximum effort. So when we get to that level, it's like, there's going to be some details that go out the window. That's fine. The effort or the intention here is to work at end range effort, max effort. So brace again. We'll skip the PAILs. Just start thinking knuckles away from floor, fingertips away from floor, turning on that rails contraction, and then use that to keep the shape of your wrist as you lift and hold. Trying to pull the palm even closer to your elbows. 3, 2, 1. Smoothly set down and relax. Last one, really do find that stretch each time so you're sure you're at end range. Brace your body. Turn on your rails contraction effort, palm to elbow. Once you've locked in on it, begin to float your hands off the floor and try to use that contraction to increase the stretch on the long side. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Excellent. All right, and have a seat, whatever's comfortable, and we're going to finish up with just a retest of the wrist car. Hold on to your forearm, pancake flat hand. Maybe squeeze your fingers together too, just to try to keep that hand as one strong unit. And then start with fingertips to the floor. That often feels pretty weird after all of our flexion work, because this is going the other direction. And start making your way through your wrist car circle, keeping the palm flat, and noticing how this flexion position is a little different than when we started today. With your fingertips reaching towards the floor, pause and let's go the other direction. And really stay in contact with what's actually happening at your wrist, not being too attached to what you think it should be or what Hannah's wrist motion looks like, but really tuning into what your wrists are telling you. All right, and try the other side. Bracing your body, flat palm, fingertips to the floor. From here, begin reaching your fingers in a nice smooth circle, not allowing your forearm to turn at all. Maybe giving a little pause when you get to flexion, just so your brain can connect that position we worked on with the motion of your wrist. And when you complete your circle, go ahead, go the other way. Really pulling the palm to your elbow, just like we were working on, and then sending that palm out to the side and opening the palm up away from you. Excellent. Relax. All right, so I hope you felt some significant changes at your wrist and hip control, and please let us know if you have any questions on this stuff. There's a lot of new pieces here, and as always, we will see you next time.